everyone. As a part of the anticipation of the launch of Pinky Swear, I have invited some of my very favorite authors to join me in what we're calling Pinky Swear Confessions. And today's guest is John Fram. John is the author of the critically acclaimed supernatural thrillers The Bright Lands, No Road Home, and the most recent, The Midnight Knock. He has written for The Atlantic, The New York Times, and elsewhere, and a lifelong Texan. He lives in Austin. Welcome, John.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me.
It's so fun. I'm so grateful for you. And you guys, if you have not read The Midnight Knock, you're gonna literally like roll over in your I was gonna say grave, but that doesn't really make any sense. So anyway, it is the shocker. Page 152. You will get there. You will be like, what just happened? You will go back. You will go forward. It's so fun. So congratulations on that, John. And thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so
Um,
much for having me. I'm so happy to be here and congratulations on Pinky Swear.
Thank you. Thank you. It's super fun. John and I had a chance to talk about this incredibly crazy business before we started to record. So we're going to start with John is going to offer us a juicy friend confession, a promise he made and broke, or a secret he kept, or a moment he realized he could not trust someone. Nothing too heavy. This is hopefully light and fun. So, John, what have you got for us?
So it was actually really cute. When I was younger, like in my mid-teens, so I grew up in the church in a small town in Texas, very sort of Friday Night Lights energy. And a really good friend and I, we were hanging out one day, and it wasn't like we were going to like set out to make like some sort of serious confession to each other, but there was definitely this moment where he's like, "Man, I feel kind of weird," and I'm like, "Why? What happened?" And he was like, "I smoked weed for the first time the other day." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, how'd it feel?" And he was like, "It was fun, but like maybe I shouldn't have told you about it." And I felt really bad because I was like, I'm not going to tell anybody. But then in the spirit of honesty, I was like, well, this doesn't apply to you, but I kind of like guys. And he was like, oh, all right, cool. And we just kind of kept each other's secret forever. So yeah, he became a stoner and I started, becoming homosexual. And we just carried right on along and went about our life.
Well, that's nice that you could have someone to confess to. It sounds like kind of a challenging environment to grow up in some
You
ways.
know, it's a great upbringing to be a thriller writer. It definitely gives you material that you can draw on forever. And it's kept a couple of therapists in business too. So it's just a win for
Well,
everybody.
I would say most thriller writers are probably keeping therapists in business these days,
That's the truth.
but
Yeah.
you're not. Well, that's so fun. Well, I love it. He became a stoner and you became a gay. Just like
Yeah.
it happened
No.
that day.
Yeah. It really kind of, I think it kind of got to set down our respective paths. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's nice that you guys responded to each other in a positive way, right? Because things could always go sideways with those kinds of, if you were like completely anti-weed, right? Or
Yeah, no, totally. I think there was probably a part of me too that was just like, drugs. But at the same time, it was like, I don't know. There's that great realization where you're like, I really don't have any room to talk here. Like, I
great.
think we're both doing stuff that our parents probably wouldn't be too thrilled about. So I think we can just kind of keep it quiet for now. Nobody's getting hurt, right?
Nobody's getting hurt. Right, right. Those are the best types of secrets to keep, right? Where somebody's not in danger. So it's all day. Okay, John, do you have a question for me?
I do. So I'm really curious what, if you can talk about it, your book has so much to do with secrets and with those things we do as kids that just won't quite let us go, those things you do in your youth that just stick on you.
Mm.
Like, as much as you're willing to say, I'm curious, like what kind of drove you about what in your life or in another person's life compelled you to write about that?
It's so funny. I think it kind of goes back to the thing we were just talking about, about like the kind of relationship you have with your parents. And for these
Mm,
three girls, the protagonist and the surrogate, so Lexi and Mara, and then the third girl, Kate, who dies when they're seniors in high school. There's all these things that happen to them that they don't tell their parents, right? And
mhm,
you read that and you think, God, if any of them just had the kind of relationship where they could have told somebody what had happened,
mhm.
then all the stuff that happened wouldn't have happened, right?
Right.
But the truth of the matter is when you are 16 or 17 and you get into a certain type of trouble, you sort of feel like you cannot tell your parents. And actually, one of the characters, Kate, who's the one who passes away, her parents are very religious, and so
Mhm.
the kind of trouble she gets in, is the kind of trouble that it's about premarital sex, and it's about
Yeah.
drinking, and there's things that there's just no way she knows for a fact that she would basically be sort of kicked out of her own home. And I think, there's a part of me that thinks, God, in today's day and age, is that still happening? And yet, of course it is,
Oh my God. Yeah, no, trust me. I went back to Waco briefly because I've lived in Austin, New York City, and then during the pandemic I went back to Waco just to be closer to my family and kind of I wouldn't say it was a quarter life crisis, but it was that moment where you're like, what am I doing? Like
yeah.
really, like let's really figure out, let's chart a course into my 30s and 40s and figure this out a little bit better. And I went back for a few years and it was very it's gotten slightly better, but I met a lot of, there's Baylor University is in Waco and it's a private Baptist university. And I met a lot of, these younger Gen Z gay boys and it's gotten a little bit better, but not by much. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I think those themes are still very applicable.
It's the same thing with these girls. I mean, there are things that they have done that and there's they go to a party, right? They want to explore. They're curious and they're interested in boys, and they have the same teenage emotions we all have, right? You want to have your first kiss. You want to try alcohol, maybe, or or just like feel out of your own body. And also, you are insane at that age, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it is like the hormones and the self-doubt and then the pressure from your parents and the school and your peers. And so it's, I think they keep, we all probably kept secrets. I just think it's interesting how they can be really benign or nothing can come of them or something really bad can come of them. So,
What do you think is worse, a secret you keep from other people or something that you're keeping from yourself?
oh God, I think that's so interesting, John. What a great question. I feel like it's probably more damaging to keep a secret from yourself,
Right? I
right?
agree.
I
Yeah.
mean, um, so I think it's sometimes like, I think people keep secrets from themselves for years and years and years and decades. And I mean, and maybe even forever, right? Don't you think there are people who sort of never confess their
Oh my
own?
God. Yeah, I dated one where it's just like, yeah, no,
Fair.
I had a boyfriend I lived with for years. And it was just, we both, I think, like he had stuff about himself he could never quite reconcile. And there were things in him, red flags are like things that you really need to pay attention to in a relationship early on if you're going to really commit to somebody that I was not accepting, that I was not being honest about in myself. There's this really, really great Japanese horror movie called Audition that you shouldn't watch unless you have a strong stomach, but it has this amazing segment where this man has met this woman and they're having their first couple of dates. And there's been such brilliant stuff going on with things like lighting and camera work to make you realize this girl might be bad news, but you're not quite sure. And there's a date that they're going on. And the footage gets really almost like slightly disjointed, like it's been badly edited. And then later, once he's realizing how bad she's a very damaged woman, and once he's realizing that she's a much more dangerous than he wanted to admit, we actually have a flashback and we watch that scene again all the way through. And you realize that he's edited out things about her childhood that he didn't want to think about.
Mm.
And that's always struck me as such a powerful metaphor for the way that we hide stuff. People tell us who they are. And are
They
you going
do.
to admit? And sometimes we do things and we just edit it out, just slice it out. And then you don't realize you can carry it on, like you said, for your whole life and never admit what you said or what you did or what you heard. It's crazy.
I mean, I think there are little things I've still buried, like little moments where
For sure.
I said something, really thoughtless and or was cruel to some my dog is pulling on me. So honey, lay down. She's so anxious. Anyway, that I still to this day like I know they're there, but I don't open the door because I have so much shame about them, even though of course I
Mm.
was young and stupid, and if I just acknowledged that I was young and stupid, it wouldn't be such a horrible thing. But it's just so, there's shame of situations like that can really just be so
No,
weighty.
it's been on my mind lately because like I'm not old, but when you get into your mid 30s, you do start to take stock a little bit more and stuff does start to bubble up where you're like, oh wow, I forgot I did that or I forgot I said that. Or you you realize in hindsight how something you did could have been way more hurtful than you recognized. And
Right.
like, yeah, it's been an interesting experience over the last couple of years of just like having to really, like you said, just acknowledge like, well, you were a really different person and you were a
Yeah.
lot younger. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy the stuff we keep from ourselves.
Yeah, and I like to think that as we get older, we sort of face more of it. You
Hmm.
get to the point where it's really hard to sort of ignore those truths. I mean, if you're growing, right?
Yeah.
Which I
If
hope.
you're, that's the thing. If you're always, I feel like there's people who are growing and then there's people who are kind of always on the run in a weird
Yeah.
way, you
Yeah. And
know?
I've
And
actually
that's,
been both. I've
yeah,
done I mean, since my divorce, for the first well, I'm not only like whatever, I'm I guess exactly 3 years out from finding out about my husband's very long affair with his massage therapist. And those first like 2 years, year and a half, all I wanted to do was run. Like
yeah.
just be like, there's and I'm now, okay, I'm facing a lot more, but it's still, there's an inclination it's hard stuff.
It's hard and it's like, it's one of those trite sayings, but I realized that wherever you go, there you are
Yeah.
thing. Because I would have that where I moved, a couple times within a few years, and I would have like the same weird fears and anxieties and neuroses. And every time I thought it was where I was living, and then you eventually realize, no, it's you, babe.
Yeah.
Like you've got to
Yeah.
deal with it. So
Yeah.
no, I thank you. I just was so curious. Like I think this book is so I love any book that's about secrets and any book that's really about like the consequence of a secret and secrecy. So I was curious to get your thoughts on that kind of question.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you, John. This was so much fun. And I'm
Yes,
so
absolutely.
grateful for the time together. So everybody, we invite you to add your own Pinky Swear confession to the comments here. Let us know what terrible or not terrible secrets.
Nothing that's going to get us in legal trouble.
Yeah, exactly. No terrible secrets, please. And certainly not, yeah, certainly nothing that you could be arrested for.
Yes.
If it's going to be, criminal activity, at least make sure that the statute of limitations has expired.
Truer words have never been spoken. Exactly.
All right, everyone. Thanks
Thank
for
you so
joining us,
much.
John. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
Bye.